Hello, I'm Denise Reiner, Director and Curator of Board Gallery. This conversation between Ánde Somby and Michelle-Marie Letelier and Paz Burara is part of an exhibition and conversation series guest curated by Paz Burara and developed with artist Michelle-Marie Letelier and Board Gallery. The series Poethics of a Sovereign Ocean, Orality, Reciprocity, and Geopolitical Trajectories 2021 features conversations with Michelle-Marie Letelier, Paz Burara, Morgan Guerin, James Harry, David Alday, and Ánde Somby, and will be accessible from our website. These conversations are in connection with the exhibition Am I Ancient or a Human-Made Machine, which is on view at Board Gallery from August 28th until October 2nd. And the conversations will continue to be accessible from our website at boardgallery.org. There are many people to thank, but at this point I would like to mention in particular Jutta Brandemühl and the Goethe Institute in Toronto for their support of this project. And as well, I would like to thank the Blue Cabin Residency for their support of Michelle-Marie's work and by extension this project. Before we start the conversation in earnest, I would like to acknowledge that I myself and Board Gallery are located in so-called Vancouver, Canada, which is comprised of the still unceded territory of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish First Nations. I would also like to further acknowledge that as we record this, many of us reaffirm our solidarity with the First Nations and our shame at the terrible legacy of the residential school system and what was done in the name of this country, where I currently live and work, Canada. Every child matters. As is the case with online conversations, each speaker is joining from a different location. So I would like to invite each of today's speakers to introduce themselves and let us know where they are joining from. Full bios can be found in the video description. Thank you.
So Paz, would you like to start the conversation or introduce?
I'm very happy that to reunite with my colleague, friend, and accomplice, Michelle-Marie Letelier, with whom we have been working the last 2 years, researching, and especially with Ánde Somby. I'm so happy, despite the distance, to meet you. And although you see me for the first time, I have listened to your yoiker for the first time when Michelle-Marie invited me to see the work in process. And I was very impressed. I remember to listen to it, to be welcome into this virtual reality. Apparently it's nothing in the space, but through your song we connected, and all this water world and community start to emerge. So I'm very happy to meet you personally. I would like to share the main question that was leading us with Michelle-Marie in this project, in which you are present many times by name, by sound, by experiences that Michelle-Marie shared. And as a curator, I have been thinking together with the artistic practice of Michelle on this question: how do exhibitions have the capacity to create moments of communality rather than objectifying the beings that enter into its modern grid? Because the exhibition space, somehow we inherited from the modern paradigm, from modernity. So we wanted to do one step further to rework these limits and also inquire, how does the exhibition become permeable to life through orality, reciprocity, and in connection with geopolitical trajectories, struggles, and potential alliances. And then it's important how we are building this triangle from the places that Michelle-Marie is working from the Sami community in Norway, Yaghan community in the south of Chile, and the First Nations in the territory of Vancouver. I know also that you have been working with the concept of medium. I have been reading, so maybe this resonates also from your practice, how we are trying to connect from the exhibition medium into communities, into life through orality, for example.
Yeah, I think it's very stimulating to work with the exhibition space, because I have been thinking so much about the significance of space, and in particularly in the context of yoic, that which spaces can you sort of utilize the energy that is in yoic, and in what way you could utilize that, and what qualities will this interplay between the space and the yoic, what kind of energies will start to move there. So it's very interesting, because this last recording, then I think that we have this very special little mountain there that is able to sort of to yoic by itself. Mm-hmm. So it is like a kind of extension of my head, because I can use my head to echo yoic and to magnify and to modulate and so on. And then I have all of a sudden got a huge skull to be in. Mm-hmm. And then to be able to sing with that huge skull. And because one has some like life-changing experiences when you get, all of a sudden you get an extension to your body. I guess that you get that kind of extension to your body when you learn to bicycle, for example. All of a sudden your body is much longer. It can reach to much longer than it could when you just were walking. And also you have that same type of experience when you yoic into a microphone for the first time, because that the sound will become much larger, and all of a sudden something has also happened to your body. And the very interesting thing with this mountain was that it gave that type of extending your body. And I think that there is not many moments in your life when you have this, that your body is extended. Maybe when you get a driver's license, then you can drive from this place to this place, and in that respect your body is extended. So it was very, very interesting in that sense. And then when it comes to the medium dimension, then I have been thinking a lot about that you can describe something and you can hyper-describe something. And one could use a metaphor like that you have a tiny band where you, for example, when you read the text, then the band where the information goes into you is pretty tiny, because it takes a long time, a lot of concentration to come through a text. But when you, for example, see a film, then you get a lot of more information. And I see that it's so interesting, ancient machine or modern machine, because yoic is some kind of an ancient film that that you can communicate in a much broader band with yoic. You can, when you need to tell an intensive story, for example, with a lot of information and you have short time, what do you do then? Then you need to yoic. And it's not a coincidence that yoic is a medium that where you communicate really existential things like love, like sorrow, and when you also try to extend to the more hyper real dimensions, like for example in the shamanistic practice we have had that one can yoik in a way where you have a kind of insight into the perception, how humans perceive things, and that is a kind of knowledge that is sort of embedded and implicit in our culture.
So, Ánde, can I interrupt a little bit, maybe, because this conversation, there will be people who don't know anything about yoic that will be listening to it. Could you be able to define what is a yoic for someone who doesn't really know what is a yoic?
Yeah. And what is a yoic? Yoics are the ancient way of chanting that our people, the Sami people, has practiced. And yoic is unique in this respect that almost all the chanting traditions of Europe, they were killed by the church and the states. So yoic is sort of a lonely survivor up in the north, up in the top of Europe, living among the indigenous peoples there. And yoic has a different type of aesthetic. I used to talk about that we have like 4 different types of aesthetics, where one type is where you emphasize virtuosity, where you shall be able to make twists. So it is like and there the important thing is to be able to make these twists and
like pendulum.
Well, one could imagine a person who is coming down a mountain on skis and then wants to be very elegant in this way, or one could imagine a skateboarder that wants to make some tricks and land on the feet and be very virtuous and elegant with that. So that is when I was like 15, 16, 17, and you know, then one is so filled by a particular kind of testosterone, I guess, that you want to compete with the masters. So I used to look up parties where the very best yoikers were, and then I tried to challenge them in this art, which is called yauzat in the yoik tradition. And then we have the second sort of aesthetic dimension is very much the energy that you want to bring out. So a parallel could be rock music, where you really want to get out the energy, and it would be So there it is that a parallel energy to that of rock. And then you have the harmonious, melodious, where you want to emphasize beauty and harmony, and then you have pretty melodious things like so there you really emphasize
Beautiful.
the tundra and the sun that is shining there, and
yeah,
and then we have the fourth aesthetic, and that is where you work with the perception, and it's close to the shamanistic tradition, that where the emphasis is to bring something into the room that is not there before you, yoik. And for example, the mosquito yoik is interesting because, like myself, I hear the sound of the mosquito, and I think that this is the most beautiful sound that I can hear. And then I know that, like any other musician, this musician will have some fee, but this musician wants a drop of blood. But I think that it's so beautiful that I pay with this drop of blood and this little sting. And the mosquito yoik, it goes like
ah, beautiful. It really
Thank you.
sounds like a
Yes.
mosquito. Beautiful.
So interesting to learn the four aesthetics.
Yeah. And imagine this has been so stigmatized, but it has survived. So I used to think about yoik when I shall say it very briefly. I say that imagine if you have this beautiful little flame that you have to take care of so that it shall not die, that you have to at least think that it shall be there, and when it is there, it shines the most beautiful light, and it's your task to protect it so that no wind shall blow it out. So you have to be there with your hands and to guard that it make sure that it is alive and vibrant and shining.
Exactly. Yeah. And Ánde, how was for you when I asked you if it's possible to commission a yoik for a dead salmon? What was for you your thought?
Well, I have been thinking that yoiks must be utilized. They must be used and to get such an interesting commission is very, very good, because then you all of a sudden you get a mirror, a strange mirror that you have to look yourself into, and then you have to sort of to make sense of that image, and to me the process of meeting a new yoik is sort of it reminds a lot about making sense, like for example, if you hear a sound that you are not used to hear, then you try to find, is there a melody there? Is there a pace there? And so you intuitively you try to make that kind of sense, and that is sort of what. Because when you get a commission like that, then you get a lot of ideas, and then you have to sort of find them the right ideas. So I don't know how people work with ideas, but my the way I used to meet ideas of different kind is that the idea is like a little bird that lands here, sings into my ear, and then I try to listen to the song, and then I, of course, because I'm a prisoner of the physicality that I happen to be a part of, that I have this voice and not another voice, and I have this little body, not another body, and so then I negotiate with the idea that well, if I use this voice, will you be satisfied with this voice? And then we try out, and it is almost like to find different types of partnerships, that you have your wishes when you go into that, but you can't get 100% of your wishes, because you will have to compromise on this and that. And then when you have found the compromises, then you have to emphasize what's good about the compromise, and then put a lot of energy in that. So it was very fascinating to work through this commission, because usually I have been working with New Yoiks that they have their own autonomy. They come to me and they ask me for the sound. Mm-hmm. They say that I am the inspiration and you are the sound. Can we be a part? Can we partner up, and then we'll be a good combination who can emphasize each other.
One of the things that was so interesting to me when we met in Tromsø 2019, and we were talking about this, I show you the photo of the skull of this salmon. And then we were trying to figure it out. What was this salmon? How old was the salmon? You said to me it was a male salmon, a young salmon, everything that you could figure out from this picture of the skull that we had. This was really interesting to me, because this also tells a lot about your tradition, as your family tradition as a fisher family, and the knowledge you have about this animal from just by reading or looking at the skull. So it's not only asking you to sing a yoik, but also the knowledge, the family knowledge you have, and the relationship you have with this animal. And this was for me so interesting.
Yeah, it is very intense, the relationship that we have to salmon, because I grew up close to the river, and I have been working fishing a lot, and it is so interesting because in the tradition then you have to have a lot of this empathy that a hunter needs, or a fisherman needs, because you need to sort of think like the salmon, and then try to utilize that knowledge. So, for example, later in life, then I learned a lot about expert systems and algorithms and what they are. And then I have been thinking a lot about how we have been using to when we fish salmon, that a little wobbler that we use as a bait for the salmon. And then it was so that it should not be a very mechanical thing that just did the same movement, but it need to go like a little bit there, a little bit there, up and down, and so on. And then the notion was that it shall appear as alive for the salmon, in the salmon's perception. So you have to perceive like the salmon, and for example, you have to be able to say that if it goes like 2 times up, 1 time down, 3 times up, and then to the side, and then that you create algorithms that are a little bit too complicated for the salmon to understand, so that the salmon then will think that this is a living thing, not a mechanical thing. So in that respect, we have an understanding of the salmon's perception, that the salmon will think that this is too mechanical, I won't bite it, and it will think that this is alive because it moves like that. And it is a lot about how you manage to choreograph the bite. So that is one example of this knowledge about salmons that our tradition has given to us.
Very interesting. And I know the tradition also that you have among fishermen, because is there fisher women? Is there women fishing also?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe we should call it fisher.
Fisher. Yeah.
So there's a whole tradition among fishers to learn how to fish, and to learn each season also is different. It's not the same. The colors, for example, I was remembering the story that you told me about the colors, that salmon like different colors in each season, and how to figure that out and before, so they can use the color to get salmon, to fish salmon.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, that we have noticed that the salmon is also following fashions. That for example, this summer the yellow wobblers are very, very interesting. When it comes to your point about women and fishing, because it's a very deep knowledge, and my oldest sister, she had this what we call a fish hand. So she was able to put her hand into a little creek and then grab a fish.
Wow, really?
With her bare hands. So and that was this then you have to have a deep knowledge of how the fish work. But she is very special because she also used to hold her hand, and then a little bird would land and eat from her hand.
Wow.
So she is magic in that respect, and a very good fisher.
Wow.
So it is a kind of very, very deep knowledge that is involved there.
I can imagine. And so how is, because you also are a professor in the Tromsø University, and you teach Indigenous law, right?
Yes, I do.
So what is the situation right now with the coastal Sami that are not so well known, and from who you belong to or your family belongs to, in terms of recognition and rights in Norway and Sápmi territories?
Yeah, the situation is pretty severe actually, because the salmon population has declined, and it is not the river Samis and not the coastal Samis who has caused that, but all this fish farming and the trawlers that have been catching the salmon. But at the end, the populations in the rivers have been declining very dramatically. So they actually closed Diatno this last summer. The Diatno meaning the river where I come from. It was not allowed to fish salmon there at all, and they also closed the coastal Samis harvest of salmon. That is a very dramatic situation because of two reasons. One is that the traditional fishing methods that imply, for example, that you are able to read the stream and you know where the salmon goes and what kind of catch you shall put up. That is declining because the generation, the youngest ones are in my generation, but the experts are in the generations prior to us. And for example, how you fish with nets, it's a very advanced and complicated thing, because you have to know the implications of the rain, if it's raining or not raining, and you have to know the implications of the wind. So the whole literature that you have to be able to read is very big, and then the younger generations are analphabetized from that literature. They are not capable of reading that in the same way, and we realize that we are walking into a crisis, and in that particular moment, then the salmon river is closed both for the river Samis and as well as for the coastal Samis, and we have the same types of knowledges that are in the coastal Samis, because they need to know the ocean streams and how the wind will affect and so on. So it is a very severe situation, and the thing is that what do you do if some other ones have put your house into fire? and you are in the midst of the fire. So then one has to try to save the situation. So with that in mind, people have been accepting the more or less accepting the situation to close the river, but it is a dramatical situation where we are questioning how it will turn out for the and it's such a strange word for me. I never thought about salmon and wild salmon. Wild salmon was not a thing that I would think of, but now I'm thinking that we have to save the population of wild salmon because we have the farmed things there.
And is this closure of the river happening only in Norway, or is and other territories in Sápmi region, in Sweden and Finland?
The closure of the river is in Diatno, and Diatno is interesting because it also defines the border between Norway and Finland. So it's an agreement between Norway and Finland, and they have agreed on the state level over the heads of the indigenous people. So it has some. I could start up my lecturing engine to tell about the legal side of that, but to say it short, it's a very questionable approach that the Norwegian and the Finnish government has taken to that very problem and how to solve that.
And the Sami parliament in this regard, in terms of salmon protection, or?
Yeah, the Sami parliament have tried to get so that the Sami people should be involved in both the processes and how one should organize that. But they haven't been included by the governments. The governments have excluded the Sami parliaments, and it has been a very very strange light to get on your dashboard because the Nordic countries attempt to, at least in their optics, to say that they're friendly with the indigenous peoples and that the rule of law applies and that indigenous rights are respected. But the proof is in the taste of the pudding, and the taste of the pudding that we got when they closed the Diatno River, it was not a good taste.
That's so unfortunate. Yeah, a lot to do. A lot to do,
but we are like the mosquito. We have always, mosquito and the yoik, we have always been here and we refuse to give up.
Yes, I know. Yeah, and this is the most powerful thing, the resistance.
Yeah, we were talking with David Alday, one of the members and representative of the Yaghan community in the south of Chile, that in order to defend their practice of fishing in what they call the Onashaga channel, they reunited with Argentines also from the other nation state to contest, in fact, the Norway royal couple that was planning many farm salmons in that southern region. So you see how this geopolitics connect both territories in this extractivist plan, but also could connect in this resistance.
Mm-hmm.
That's so true, and therefore I think that this project with this approach to connect the three processes here is such a fruitful approach.
Absolutely. I mean, this is one of my dreams, to really put in dialogue Sami culture and resistance, Yaghan resistance, and First Nations resistance, coastal First Nations resistance in the British Columbia territory in Canada in regards to salmon, because it's basically the same problem. But salmon, as you know, never belonged to the Southern Hemisphere. So it's very similar resistance against the installment of salmon farming in the south of Chile. But the salmon as the animal, as the species, is totally a foreigner species. It's an invasor because it never belonged to the Southern Hemisphere. So they don't know about the richness and the importance of this animal culturally. So this is what I would also like to bring to them because salmon is already there and it's getting wild. How do you say? It's getting wild within the ecosystem in the south of Chile. So it won't go, it will stay. So this is also something very important for me to share.
Yeah, and it is also because if one, as a lawyer, if we then turn the focus to the rights of the animal, the rights of the salmon, what kind of and oftentimes when you are talking about rights, it's useful to think of integrity. That what type of integrity is there? And I think that, for example, that the salmon has a genetic integrity, meaning that you must respect the genetic configuration of the salmon, and in human history we haven't been so good with respecting other species' genetic integrity, like what has been done to Belgian blue, for example, and to all this different type of dog breeding that has happened through history. But we I think that by being more enlightened also means that you have to get new responsibilities, and one of the things that we will meet in a very close, much more closer way is with the salmon industry, is that we have to focus on the genetic integrity of the salmon. So we are not as innocent as when we domesticated, for example, cows. Yeah. Because then we were not enlightened about those
genetical knowledge.
Yeah. So in that respect, this project is also a bit futuristic, that you have to open new ethical discussions that we haven't been discussing currently, and we haven't been discussing in the history, but we have to start to discuss.
Absolutely, yeah. And maybe a discussion that it could be trans-indigenous. No?
Yes, because, for example, in the yoiker tradition, one important idea that we have is that of transformation. For example, when you saw the mosquito yoik, then I sort of transform into a mosquito.
Yeah.
But it also means that I'm not so sure anymore whether I'm a human or whether I'm a mosquito. Also, a little bit of a mosquito, and by that turn of thought, then how is it to be a mosquito? How is it to get smashed, or is it better to get caressed away? Or and if you are a wolf, if you are not so sure, am I a human? Am I also a little bit of a wolf? And that means that you have to respect the integrity of the wolf. What is the integrity of the wolf? What is the integrity? So in that respect, you can bring resources that one can say that there are in the traditional way of thinking, where you have a kind of a system of empathizing with your fellow species, and then you have to try to make modern practices out of that. So one implication, for example, for the salmons is that is it possible to slaughter salmons in a way that give them integrity and respect, as for example, we have to. There are no bananas in the trees, so we have to eat meat up in the north. But it means that we also have to so the animals cannot have the right to life as human. It's a human right to have a right to life, but it's not an animal right to have a right to life. But it doesn't mean that the animals do not have rights at all. For example, the right to be treated in a dignified way, to get a clean and peaceful death, that your remains shall be treated with respect, and so there are a lot of things that we as humans need to sort out, and there are resources in the different indigenous traditions, conceptual resources, how one can organize such hard things to think about and to organize, and then to have the bridge to the future, because these are very important questions to bring into the future, so that that human of the future shall be able to live more ethical, peaceful life, so that they can be at ease with themselves. For example, now we have the who dares to talk about the slaughterhouses for animals, for example. It's a terrible thing, and we need to reorganize that, and I think that our project gives a kind of entry door into this very hard and demanding questions.
Absolutely, and I think it's urgent. It's a very urgent alternative or answer to the current situation that we're living.
Yeah.
And also historically, to connect with the geopolitics, I have been researching a lot in the Cold War period and how the project of developmentalism, so very high capitalism in a global scale, also had this discourse that opposed tradition to modernity, to modernization. And how this binary, I'm very happy to hear from what you say, how tradition is a source for modern, current or futuristic practices. So not to see it as tradition is in the past, something that has to be overcome for the modernization.
Yeah. It's very, very important. Yeah, I have got these minutes from my little daughter, so I have to start to eat because I'm rushing to a parent meeting at the school this afternoon here.
It has been a pleasure, and it has been
yes, thank you for sharing all the energies, but very precisely with the 4 aesthetics, and even to give us this last thought to break these limits, tradition versus modernity, past versus present, and to be in now. That is one of the works of Michelle, at the space in which we share models of respect rather than of extractivism.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ánde. Thank you for your collaboration, your wonderful collaboration. And we keep the dialogue, and hopefully we can keep your words and knowledge to other people who will be very, very happy to hear this and benefit. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'm sorry I have to run now.
No problem, no problem. Bye, Ánde.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye.